Most people hear $30,000 a year and instantly picture a miserable life, like living off instant noodles, rotating the same handful of outfits, and feeling stuck in permanent broke college kid mode. But that idea is flat out wrong. Because with the right strategy, living on a low income does not have to feel like punishment. You can absolutely cover your needs, enjoy your life, and build real stability even on a very small paycheck. I'm Vanessa, and one thing I always want people to understand is this. Financial freedom is not just about how much money comes in. It's about how well you manage what you already have. If you want to get smarter with your money, no matter what income bracket you're in, go ahead and subscribe and hit like if this video helps you out. Here's something wild. Recent numbers show that a huge chunk of Americans would struggle to cover even a small emergency without borrowing money or selling something. At the exact same time, there are people making way less than average who still manage to build savings and invest consistently. That difference is not magic. It's not luck. And it's definitely not some secret playbook reserved for people born into wealthy families. The real difference is that living well on less is a skill. And like any skill, it can be learned if you're willing to stop believing that comfort has to come with a giant paycheck. Let me show you what I mean. I knew a woman once named Elena who worked the front desk at a dental office and made around $29,000 a year. Everyone around her was always complaining about being broke, grabbing overpriced lunch every day, and saying they could never afford to do anything fun. Meanwhile, Elena packed these amazing homemade meals, took little day trips to nearby beach towns, and somehow still put money aside every month. People kept asking her what her secret was. She'd laugh and say, "I just don't let my money wander off." That's basically what we're breaking down today. The first thing you need to understand about living on a very low income is that it requires a full mindset shift. Most people handle money in reverse. They get paid, spend first, and then cross their fingers hoping something is left at the end of the month. That setup creates stress no matter how much you earn. There are people making well into six figures doing that exact same thing and still living paycheck to paycheck. The real secret to doing well on a low income is being intentional with every dollar. That doesn't mean you have to live like a monk or never enjoy yourself. It just means your money needs a job. Every expense has to earn its place in your life. When you're living on $30,000 or less, there is no room for lazy spending or running your finances on autopilot. So let's start with the foundation, keeping your fixed expenses as low as possible. Fixed expenses are the bills that show up every month whether you're in the mood for them or not. Rent, utilities, insurance, your phone bill, subscriptions, all of it. These are the sneaky budget killers, because once you lock them in, they keep pulling money out of your life month after month with zero effort on your part. And here's where people make one of their biggest mistakes. They base their budget off the gross income instead of take-home pay. If you earn $30,000 a year, you are not actually working with $30,000. After taxes, you're probably bringing home something closer to $22,000 to $24,000, depending on where you live and your situation. So, in real life, you're dealing with around $2,000 a month, not the prettier number you see before deductions. That's why the rule for housing matters so much. If you're on a tight income, keeping housing under 30% of your take-home pay is the target. And honestly, lower is even better. So if you bring home $2,000 a month, your housing really should stay at $600 or less. I know some of you are already rolling your eyes and thinking, there is no way that's realistic. But there actually are a few ways to make it happen. One option is to think creatively about how you live. Maybe that means renting a place with an extra room and subletting it. Maybe it means living in a small property with a separate studio space you can rent out. I know someone who bought a modest home with a detached garage apartment, rented out that little unit, and the rent covered most of the monthly payment. Suddenly, housing stopped being the giant burden it used to be. And if buying is not on the table, roommates can be a total game changer. Splitting a decent apartment with another person often costs way less than trying to afford a tiny one-bedroom on your own. On top of that, you may split utilities, internet, and sometimes even groceries if you're organized about it. That kind of setup can free up hundreds of dollars a month. Another thing more people should seriously consider is moving somewhere cheaper. Fancy term, geographic arbitrage. Simple meaning, stop paying premium prices for the privilege of being broke in an expensive place. If you're spending $1,300 for a cramped apartment in a pricey city, that same amount could get you a much nicer setup in a smaller town. And yes, maybe wages are a little lower there, but if your monthly expenses drop way more than your income does, you've just created grieving room without earning an extra dime. Now, let's talk about the part of the budget that quietly wrecks everything: transportation. This one can absolutely torch your finances if you're not careful. The average person spends a ridiculous amount every year just getting around, between car payments, gas, insurance, repairs, registration, and maintenance. If you're making $30,000 or less, letting transportation swallow that much of your income is basically asking your budget to collapse. And let's be honest about cars for a second. That pretty monthly car payment might make you feel polished and put together, but it can also be the biggest thing standing between you and actual financial stability. Every month you send $350 or $450 to a lender is money that could have gone to savings, debt payoff, or future you. Cute car, empty bank account. Not exactly the dream. The smarter move is not necessarily going without a car. It's choosing your car like a financially responsible adult instead of like someone trying to impress strangers at a red light. If you can, buy a dependable used car in cash. An older Corolla or a used Mazda 3 is not glamorous, but reliable beats glamorous every single time when money is tight. I would rather drive something forgettable and have savings than pull up looking fancy while stressing about overdraft fees. And if you absolutely have to finance, do not drag that loan out forever. Never finance more car than you can knock out in 2 years. Those long car loans look affordable because the payment is smaller, but they keep you trapped for way too long. That's how people end up paying on a car long after the excitement is gone and the repair bills start showing up. If you live somewhere with decent public transportation, it is worth asking when you need a car at all. Buses, trains, the occasional rideshare, and renting a car only when you truly need one can sometimes cost way less than full-time car ownership. And bonus, you can use commute time to read, answer emails, or just zone out instead of white-knuckling your way through traffic. Food is another place where people spend way more than they realize. A lot of households spend thousands every year on food, and a massive chunk of that goes to takeout, delivery, and restaurant meals. When your income is low, dropping that much money on convenience food makes it really hard to build any kind of savings. But here's what people get wrong about cooking at home. They think it means sad, flavorless meals and being chained to the stove every night. No, absolutely not. With a little planning and a few basic skills, you can eat better than a lot of people while spending way less. And no, meal planning does not have to turn into some color-coded spreadsheet situation. Keep it simple. Pick one day a week, maybe Sunday, and nap out a handful of meals. 15 minutes is enough. The point is not perfection. The point is avoiding that moment when you're tired, hungry, don't know what to make, and suddenly convince yourself that a $22 delivery order is somehow reasonable. Start with cheap staple foods that can be used in multiple ways. Pasta, lentils, eggs, ground turkey, oats, frozen vegetables, onions. On their own, those don't sound exciting. But together, they can become pasta bowls, soups, tacos, breakfast scrambles, casseroles, or sheet pan dinners that actually taste good and cost a fraction of restaurant food. And here's the underrated money move nobody talks about enough. Use your freezer like it's part of your financial plan. If you find bread marked down, freeze it. If berries are on sale, freeze them. If you make a huge tray of baked ziti or a pot of soup, portion some of it out and freeze it. That gives you your own stash of convenience meals without paying convenience prices. Also, can we talk about grocery stores for a second? They are designed to get you to spend more. The layout, the displays, the placement, the little treats by the checkout, none of that is random. Walking into a grocery store hungry and without a list is basically a donation. You will leave with things you never planned to buy. So make a list and stick to it like your budget depends on it, because it does. If it isn't on the list, leave it there. I know that sounds strict, but on a low income, random purchases have real consequences. That extra snack, impulse drink, or trendy little item adds up fast, and small leaks sink budgets all the time. Now let's get into a topic people hate admitting matters: entertainment and social spending. This category can quietly mess up your progress if you're not careful. And no, that does not mean you have to become boring or stop having a life. It just means you need to get more creative about how you enjoy yourself. The social pressure can be intense, especially if your friends or family make more money than you do. When everybody wants to do brunch, rooftop drinks, concert tickets, and pricey weekend plans, it is easy to feel awkward or embarrassed. But here's the truth. The people who genuinely care about you will respect your financial goals. The people who mock you for being responsible are telling you something important about themselves. Instead of always turning down invitations, be the one who suggests better options. Invite people over for taco night. Plan a picnic. Go for a walk somewhere pretty. Do a home game night. Find a free local festival. Visit an art gallery on a free entry day. A lot of the time, people enjoy those things just as much, if not more, because they're actually able to relax instead of silently worrying about the bill. And libraries? Criminally underrated. Libraries are not just shelves of books anymore. A lot of them have movies, audiobooks, classes, internet access, workshops, community events, and even things you can borrow besides books. Some have equipment, crafting tools, or learning spaces. It's basically one of the best free resources available, and a lot of adults completely overlook it. The same goes for thrift stores and consignment shops when you need clothes or home stuff. The old stigma around secondhand shopping is so outdated. Why pay full price when you can get something just as useful for a tiny fraction of the cost? Plenty of stylish people shop secondhand because it's smart, not because they're forced to. Here's a mindset trick that can completely change how you shop. Before you buy anything that isn't essential, convert it into hours of your life. If you bring home $12 an hour after taxes, and the item costs $60, that's 5 hours of your time. 5 actual hours of your energy, focus, and effort. Is that purchase really worth it? Sometimes yes. But a lot of the time, seeing the cost in hours instead of dollars kills the urge real fast. Emergency savings matter even more when you're living on a low income, because you have less margin for surprise expenses. A flat tire, a prescription, a small repair, any of that can become a full-blown crisis when there's no cushion. People love saying you need 3 to 6 months of expenses saved. And yes, that's the long-term goal. But when you're starting from scratch, even $100 can make a huge difference. Start small. Seriously, save $5 a week. Save $10. Round up purchases and move the difference. Put aside whatever you can manage consistently. The point is not building a giant emergency fund overnight. The point is proving to yourself that you can create a buffer. That little bit of space between you and disaster changes how you feel about money almost immediately. One of the most powerful habits you can build on a low income is learning the difference between wanting something and actually needing it. Advertising works overtime trying to blur that line. Every ad wants you to believe your life is incomplete without some upgrade, subscription, trend, device, or convenience. But most of that stuff is not a need. It's a want wearing a fake must-have outfit. You do not need a brand new phone every time the camera gets slightly better. You do not need a boutique fitness membership if you can walk, stretch, or work out at home. You do not need an expensive cable package when lower-cost streaming options already give you more content than you could finish in a year. That doesn't mean your life should be joyless or stripped down to bare survival. It just means your spending should line up with your actual values, not with whatever marketing got in your head that day. Buy things on purpose. Spend in ways that make your life better. Stop spending in ways that just make companies richer. And when your budget is tight, systems matter. You cannot afford chaos. Set up automatic transfers to savings, even if it's only $25 a month. Track your spending with an app or a simple spreadsheet so you know where your money is really going. Pick one day each month to check in with your finances. Not to panic, just to review, adjust, and stay in control. The goal is not to build some complicated money system that feels like a second job. The goal is to create easy routines that reduce mistakes and make good decisions automatic. You also need to get ruthless about recurring charges. These little subscriptions multiply when you're not paying attention. One streaming service here, one cloud storage fee there, one app you forgot about, one membership you meant to cancel, and suddenly you're bleeding money every month on stuff you barely use. Here's a mildly horrifying exercise. Pull up the last 3 months of bank statements and highlight every recurring charge. I promise you, there is a very high chance you'll find subscriptions you forgot existed, free trials that quietly turned into monthly fees, and memberships tied to hobbies you abandoned months ago. Canceling unused subscriptions is one of the fastest ways to free up money without changing your whole life. And yes, companies make canceling annoying on purpose. They want signing up to take 3 seconds and canceling to feel like a scavenger hunt. Don't let that stop you. 15 annoying minutes can save you a surprising amount over a year. Now, let's talk about something people don't love hearing, but it matters. Your social circle affects your spending more than you think. If you spend all your time around people who casually blow money on expensive dinners, shopping sprees, and random upgrades, that behavior starts to feel normal. Even when it does not fit your goals, you'll feel pulled toward it. That doesn't mean you need to cut everyone off and go live in a cave. It just means you need to be aware of the pressure. When people suggest things that are too expensive, offer an alternative instead of just disappearing. People who respect you will roll with it. And if someone consistently makes you feel weird for having boundaries around money, that tells you plenty. Insurance is another place where people quietly overpay. Yes, you need it. No, you do not need to accept whatever rate you were first given and stick with it forever. Shop around at least once a year. The exact same coverage can vary wildly from one company to another. Saving even $40 or $50 a month on insurance is meaningful when your income is tight. You can also look at raising your deductible if you already have some savings set aside. A higher deductible often means a lower monthly premium. If you're a careful driver and rarely file claims, that trade-off can make a lot of sense. Look, living on $30,000 or less is not just possible. Once you get good at it, it can actually feel weirdly freeing. You sleep better when you're not drowning in bills. You feel calmer when you know your money has a plan. And you start realizing that some of the best parts of life do not have a price tag attached to them at all. None of this is some revolutionary hidden secret. It's mostly common sense, just applied consistently. Start with 1 or 2 changes. Let those wins build momentum. And over time, the stress starts shrinking. You stop feeling like money is always slipping through your fingers. And the next time someone wants to split some absurdly expensive dinner bill evenly, you'll be a whole lot more comfortable protecting both your peace and your wallet.